What up, everyone? Welcome to Bad Hasbara,
the world's most moral podcast.
Yes, I am your most moral co-host, Matt Lieb, and with me, as always,
I'm Daniel Mate. I got a pink rose.
You got a rose?
Just for the look and for the odor.
Did you get it specifically for the podcast intro, or was it just sitting on your desk?
No, I was here for other reasons.
Oh, okay.
But I just thought it would be a nice visual, you know?
Yeah, no, it looks good.
You got to start an episode with some sweetness.
Yeah. It looks like it smells
How are you doing? I saw you recently.
You did. I was in New York for a couple of days. I did a show, stand-up show with, it was like a Jewish Currents put on an event with a bunch of like...
Yeah, not to be confused with Jewish Chronicle.
Yeah, no, Jewish Chronicle, very different, and we will be talking about the Jewish Chronicle. But no, this is like the more left-wing side of Jewish institutional media.
Yeah.
Jewish Currents, which I believe is like, I don't actually know how long it's been around, but they were doing like a bunch of panels, like a fundraising type of event, and then they had a stand-up show. And it was a lot of fun. I made it by the skin of my teeth because I got a fucking kidney stone passed through my shit. And that was one of the most painful things in my life. It was crazy. I really barely made it to that comedy show. But I told the doctor, I was like, I got to do 5 minutes at an old synagogue that was converted to an art space.
And was definitely not made with like stand-up comedy audio in mind.
Or any kind of live performance event in mind. It was meant for fucking bar mitzvahs. It was meant for the readings of Haftorahs. It was not.
You capped off the day. I was at a lot of those panels. I saw Noura Erakat on an all-Palestinian panel. That was really amazing. I saw. It was a very striking experience. There was a panel first of 4 Jewish people: Shaul Magid, Ariella, Aisha Azulai, Rabbi Alyssa Weiss of Rabbis for Ceasefire, and all these people are reasonably anti-Zionist, or at least want to call themselves counter-Zionist or post-Zionist or whatever at the farthest fringe. Okay. But they were disagreeing on a lot of things on the Jewish panel, and there wasn't much of a sense of like a shared... I don't know. It was weird. I went
ideology or outlook, or
not just ideology or outlook, but the comparison I'm making is that going to the Palestinian panel next, 5 Palestinians, very different outlooks on what should happen next. But I really did have the sense that I was listening to 5 individuals from the same people, like an actual people, from a nation that come from a place with a shared history. You know, when you have a Mizrahi Jewish anti-Zionist and a rabbi who's Ashkenazi American, and and a Hebrew scholar and whatnot, from Jerusalem, whose politics are a little bit unclear. I just didn't. It was just I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I just the notion of a Jewish people. Yeah. As I'm sitting there, I'm not feeling like I'm watching representatives of a people. I'm watching representatives of people who have 4 very different ideas of what an idea means, and the idea is called being Jewish.
It kind of feels like you're saying that I, as a Ukrainian Jew, am not from the Middle East, which I don't know if you know this, but that's straight up racist.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is that it's possible, Matt, that you and I just have absolutely nothing in common except that we love to make dick jokes and puns about the Jewish state.
Yeah,
we might not even. What is it? What are Jews anyway? What are we? Is what I'm saying. All the anti-Semites on Twitter are right. What the fuck is a Jew? Yeah, I got thrown into total chaos at Jewish Currents.
Yeah. I mean,
it was a great event.
It sounds like a great event, but also, yes, I think one of the premises of the show is looking at Israelis and going, "This is a different thing. This is not the same as just some fucking guy from New York." Was there a good nosh after?
I don't know. I went around the corner and got Matt some pizza from...
yeah, you got me my first bit of food since passing a fucking stone. Shout out to producer Adam Levin, who's in there. He's out here in the streets.
Matt did kill it. It was a great set, man.
It was a lot of fun. It was a good time.
People loved it.
And give us 5 stars and review, all that shit. Comments on the Spotify. Patreon.com/badhasbara. And then also, once again, episode sponsored by, and we will have new sponsors eventually. And by new sponsors, I mean new charities that we look up. But Palestinian Children's Relief Fund, PCRF.net. Go there and go ahead and donate.
Please do.
And then think about going to the Patreon and, joining. We're gonna have some exclusive Patreon only episodes coming up shortly. Daniel, what's a spin?
Spin right now. I got a few things on the turntable. I got Theodor Bickel singing Jewish folk songs.
Sick.
My brand of Judaism, Ashkenazi theatrical Judaism. This
Yeah,
guy's
yeah.
the fucking best. Theodor Bickel. System of a Down's first album, which I've never really listened to, but I hear is great. And
Is that the one that has psycho, cocaine, crazy? That one?
I'm not sure. It doesn't have Chop Suey on it or Toxicity.
Right. It's the one before Toxicity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's something a little theatrical about that group.
Dude, that guy, Serge Tankian, he just opened up a coffee shop like a block away from me. There's a System of a Down lead singer coffee shop that I need to go to.
For sure.
I want to meet that guy so bad. He's the coolest dude I've ever seen from my childhood. I was just like,
Tankian. If you call him Tankian, he sounds like
a tanky.
Sounds like you're accusing him of working for my brother's outlet.
Yeah, right.
In bad faith on Twitter. I've got Queen Latifah, Nature of a Sister.
Beautiful.
I've got the Dead Kennedys.
All right.
And finally, last but not least,
you have too many fucking records, bro.
Sade Villain, the MF Doom Sade mashup, which is very cool.
Sick. That's what's spinning.
Yeah.
And that's what we're listening to. And now it is time to introduce our guest, most moral guest, obviously, for today's episode. You might know him as the co-host of the podcast Chapo Trap House. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone else, welcome Felix Biederman.
Hello.
What's up, Felix?
Hey, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you
for
for
coming
being had.
on. Thanks, dog. How are you doing this fine? What is it? It's Wednesday? How you
Yeah,
doing?
it's a Wednesday. Not bad. I had to, there were some technical difficulties going into this episode because of Windows 11. I had to do the BIOS thing for anyone who has a Windows PC.
I remember back in those days, but that's the blue screen where you're just
No, it's a black screen now.
Oh.
But the way the BIOS works is they're like, do you want to boot your computer? And you just do it until your computer works.
I don't
know how I've ever gotten out of it. I don't know how I've gotten into it ever, but that's always seemed to work, that I just keep doing it and it works.
It's just boot roulette. Just tell me that you didn't get your Windows 11 system, that the supply chain didn't go somehow through Tel Aviv.
Yeah, dude.
Because when you wrote to us and were like, hey, I'm having some tech issues, I'm like, this is not the day I want to hear that our guest has tech issues.
Yeah.
These are regular tech issues you have when you when you install a bunch of weird DCS mods into your computer.
Sure.
DCS mods.
We know what those are
for sure.
Yeah.
DCS is Digital Combat Simulator, and it is the flight simulation thing I play. And one of them, I consider it the premier experience.
It's the best flight simulator.
Well, a lot of people say that Falcon BMS is the best, and Falcon BMS certainly has some good advantages over DCS. I don't think there's any one best. I think they all provide their own experience. But I don't know. I just do a lot of things to this computer, so I can I can fly a plane that never existed imaginarily. And I think that's responsible for a lot of the problems I've been having. But it's fine. I always get it to work at the end of the day.
Yeah, you always fly directly into work. I like that. There's it's a really on the nose form of escapism where you're literally flying a virtual plane away from all your problems. You know what I mean?
Well, I have been looking up decommissioned fighter jets on websites that list them, and they're way cheaper than you would think. Hassan Piker actually showed me this TikTok of this kid who got a NASA has a bunch of F-16s that they use for research. They used 3 of the main American 4th gen fighter jets they modified them with thrust vectoring, and like did all these things to like their ailerons and all these things.
Mm.
So they had a ton of them, and they're selling them, and they're like sort of earlier F-16 models. This kid got one for only $230,000. That's
Only,
like fucking for a fight for an F-16. That's so cheap.
yeah.
That's bar mitzvah money just from your stepdad's side.
Yeah.
Yeah. God damn.
So I don't know.
But
I'm
then
thinking,
you gotta put it somewhere, you know? You gotta, what is it? You gotta like rent a hangar?
yeah, I was talking to a boat guy about this because
about where to put your plane.
Well, no, just like I will never be a boat guy because
Sure.
I don't. It's so much effort for something that like ultimately doesn't go that fast. And I think
True.
they're cool. I think water skiing's fun.
You don't want to be one of America's beautiful boaters?
It's just it's so much work, and like they're cool, but like how many like you have to do so much shit.
Yeah.
And it's like ultimately it's the same thing as like having a gazebo, but you know, I was talking to him because he was a guy who had a non-standard vehicle and I wanted his input. And he was like, my dad was in the, Navy aviators. You'll need a crew of guys to work on that. And I thought, okay, well, there's Fiverr.
Yeah.
And second of all, like, there's instructions for everything on YouTube. Literally anything you could ever want to know. There's like a nice Indian or Bangladeshi man who explains it completely.
Yes.
Anything you could, I guarantee right now, I could figure out how to maintain an F-16.
You could synthesize your own jet fuel, in your kitchen. Matt, I do like your idea of a flight simulator of like flying away from your problems. And if someone could create, like work with psychotherapists or whatever to create a flight simulator where like your problems and your psychological issues and your traumas appear really close. They appear really close up at first, and then as you lift off, you see them from a different point of view, and you can bomb them. You can do targeted strikes on like your daddy issues. And,
I like that.
And fly away from your avoidant issues, and I feel like there's.
I thought you were talking the 9/11 style suicide bombing of like your trauma.
That would be great too. Fly a plane straight into your attachment complex
disorders.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if anyone's gonna create that type of game, who listens to this podcast, I'm sure they're gonna do other fun shit first, rather than make that one. But that does sound like fun. But Felix, I wanted to ask you on the subject of Jew stuff. Zionism, yay or nay?
I think if Zionism was, let's say, like either America never existed or otherwise, like Zionism, it never became a current in either of the globe spanning empires that it became it caught currency in.
Yeah.
If that never happened, Zionism would be one of those weird tendencies that has like 30 followers,
right?
Where it's like the favorite thing of Wikipedia deep divers. And I think there would be no singular consensus over where the Jewish state would be, or like what there would be all these funny subcategories.
Yeah, it would be a weird little cult that you would read about. Like deep Wikipedia. Yeah.
I would still look. I am just for like identity politics reasons.
Yes, please.
Being against identity politics, I would be against it.
Mm-hmm.
But depending on how marginal it was, I would probably see it the same way that I see a lot of other stuff, where I'm like, well, it's kind of cute, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Well, but
it never would have harmed anybody in that case.
Except 100%, it would be one of those things.
Except for those 30 guys who end up in the middle of the desert following some guy who's like, "Trust me, this is where we're living now."
Yeah, but there's an element of agency in that storyline.
Sure.
I think there are always any just extremely marginal political view. The people who got involved in that, they were going to get involved in that or another one.
Yeah.
It takes a certain type.
Yeah. 100%.
How is it? I mean, you don't mind if we out you as a Jew from the Midwest.
No one knew. No one had any idea.
Right. Sorry to blow up your spot.
This is everyone's first time finding out.
We don't need to get deep into this, but it's always curious to me to know how. I mean, because what I had growing up was an anti-Zionist father who, even though he sent me to a Zionist summer camp, inoculated me in some ways, kind of intellectually and whatever, against fully buying in whole hog.
So just real quick, Felix, are you vaping? Is that the sound I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's a vape.
Sorry, I just wanted to be sure that's what I was hearing.
I can do it farther away from the mic.
No. I like it in the mic. It gives there's a flair to it. I can see it in my head. But go on, Daniel. Please.
Maybe that's his secret. That's what he's ingesting is the serum.
The serum.
I'm just curious, sort of, at what point in your trajectory, because obviously, if you're growing up in, was it Chicago?
I grew up in Hyde Park.
Surrounded by Jews. There's certainly a lot of inducement to just join the general Zionist drift. At what point do you remember looking around you and being like, no, I don't think that's going to be for me?
Well, I've talked about this a few times on our show and on Twitter, but my dad had very idiosyncratic political beliefs that I think are they're endemic to the first wave of boomers. And it was a consequence of being able to identify several problems, but just for whatever reason, being at the time that they grew up, or growing up in a uniquely prosperous time in American history, or whatever, it avoids intersecting with the usual left-wing class analyses of these problems. So in some ways, the solutions to said problems are ridiculous or make no sense. And in some ways, they're very innovative. Some of the things my dad thought were the presidency should be a 1 6-year term and the president gets killed when they're done.
I love
and
this.
I think that's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
Do they get to choose the manner of their own death?
No.
That's voted on.
That's
I thought that's an awesome idea. He had a few that
Do you know how much voter turnout you would get for that election?
Oh my God.
He had a few that were kind of half joking, where he's like, John McCain's a Manchurian candidate for North Vietnam, but we deserve it for what we did.
I love that.
Yeah, America deserves this. He was in after 9/11. I was so thankful for this. My parents, both of them, but especially my dad, with what a sort of prick he was about this stuff, not to us, but just talking about it.
Sure.
Inoculated us against that sort of jingo American rah shit that everyone else that I knew, all their friends, all their parents were doing. On October 2001, this sort of middling sub shop near our house closed down. And Hyde Park, I think it's different now, but everything, all the restaurants there are really shitty. I don't know why that was the case when I was growing up, but he was
the bear has changed all that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But yeah, he was like, this is our 9/11. When I was a little kid, I very forcefully wanted to go to, I didn't have the words to express this at the time, but looking back, I was consciously asking to go to a Gentile summer camp with guns and shit. And my parents were they completely were yeah, absolutely, and they let me go, and it was great.
Nice.
But I went to the first camp I went to that, it closed down for financial reasons after the first summer I went when I was 10. My dad was like, that's our 9/11 also. When Camp Shawamigan closed down, that's the real 9/11. And he was against invading Afghanistan. He had very courageous stances.
Yeah.
That were very unusual for an upper middle class Jewish attorney from Chicago, you know.
So he didn't indoctrinate you with Zionism, or
no one did. No one did. My dad was not. He's not a Gabor Mate, Dr. Gabor Mate.
Sure.
he did not have like a fully
like searching for what the right joke is to make. I'm just going to let that one go. Yeah.
But like it did not have an articulated, anti-Zionism, but it was more like
he armed you with irony. He armed you with a healthy distance from
right,
jingoism and doctrine and dogma, right? So that you could look askance at things, which I think is that's the true Jewish birthright as far as I'm concerned.
But
it's a slightly skewed view.
Both my parents, like incredibly funny and intelligent people who like gave me like a very wide berth as a little kid. Like, they would do stuff. The youngest always gets like a wider berth than the older kids, but they would do stuff like, I watched Terminator 2 when I was like 5, and my mom and dad went to great lengths to like explain the time travel mechanic and all this shit. And they really, I feel like they tried an experiment with me, which is just like, let me do whatever kind of within reason. And like, let me watch R-rated movies when I'm very young and all this shit. And it didn't look like it was going to work out until I was like 24, but then it did. So like, neither of them were like dedicated anti-Zionists or anything like that. But like, it was stuff like my brother and sister, every neighborhood with a ton of Jewish people in it, there was like a JCC, right? Like I'm sure there was a JCC where you guys grew up. My brother and sister like had summer jobs there when they were like in high school and middle school and shit. And they were describing like this awful counselor there, this Israeli woman who's just like completely just nasty and like cruel to everyone for no reason. And my dad, this is my first memory of anyone talking to me about this stuff. And my dad was like, yep, yeah, that's what Israelis are like. They fucking, they're terrible. No one likes them. They fucking suck. They're the meanest people. They're stupid. They're annoying.
They think they're much more attractive than they are.
Right. But he wasn't like, I think like he would probably find the idea of like a Jewish person being really into Palestine. He would probably find that like, the darker side of having a highly developed sense of irony, right? You stray away from things that are overly sincere or you perceive as mawkish.
That's right.
So he probably would think that like a Jewish person who's very into Palestine, he would find that kind of mawkish and weird.
Right.
But both my parents, not cynicism, but like, their appraisal of the world. And then my dad saying that, those are pretty foundational to me. And they definitely inoculated me against like a certain type of Zionism that a lot of like Jewish kids get into.
Right. I mean, especially since you were talking about like wanting to find the Gentile camp with the guns. Like that's like, it's very easy to go from that to Zionist camp where, all of your counselors are Israelis and they're telling you, they're teaching you how to fire an Uzi and shit.
Oh my God, no. And like that could have happened.
Did you know you don't have to convert out of Judaism to be a homicidal maniac? Try Zionism.
That so easily could have happened to me because I was not immune from propaganda.
Sure.
I famously, one of the most embarrassing things from my childhood, I wanted to be, when I was like 14 and I saw John Kerry run for president, I was like, what if I become like a Navy SEAL and then I become a liberal senator? Then no one could say I'm like unpatriotic. So I had some very stupid ideas.
Every episode of Chapo would start with Felix saying, reporting for duty.
Yeah. I don't know why I thought that would work. What was I? But my parents weren't. I don't think they would even have described themselves as like avowed anti-Zionist. But my grandmother on my dad's side, incredibly interesting person. She's still alive, by the way. One of the oldest people that I know.
Shout out.
The oldest person I know. She was born in fucking 1920.
Jesus.
My God.
Yeah. Very interesting life. She her dad, I've never really like fully understood the story because she was like already like 101 when she told us.
Right.
But like her dad or someone, they were like illiterate like heroin dealers, and she had to like drop out of school when she was like 13, and just like an incredibly like brutal life. They lived in like the basement of a building that had a dirt floor.
Uh-huh.
But she, you know, she was like still very tough and capable, obviously.
This is your grandmother we're talking about?
Yeah, my
Okay.
dad's mom.
Yeah.
And she met this guy, my grandfather, who was like a very one of the most normal guys ever in my family. Normal, regular guy that everyone liked.
Yeah.
And, you know, she built this great life. But I had never known this about her. She said that she had left her temple, you know, like 60 years ago, on her not 100th, but I think like 105th or 6th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, it was 100. It was like, yeah, one of those. But
she was in the triple digits.
Yeah, we had like a big family get together, and everyone just asked her questions because it's like, you know, going from fucking 1920 to, you know, now is just, that is you've seen the world change so many times. But someone asked her about, like, you know, what it was like during the foundation of Israel, and she said, we left our temple because we were against Zionism. We were against like this racialized identity politics because we thought it was the same racial logic that Hitler had, basically.
Nice.
Wow.
Okay.
And she, this is all stuff I had found out like later when I was already an adult. She, sometime like many years ago, you know how like old people are always going to like charity things?
Yeah.
She like made sure after a certain point that no like charity thing she had anything to do with Israel.
Nice. BDS booby.
Yeah.
But she, like, again, this is another person where, like, you know, either because of the fact that she is fucking 104 years old or whatever, probably would not call herself like an avowed anti-Zionist or anything like this.
Right.
But like, this is really, if you could just get every American there.
I love that shit. That's my favorite kind of opposition. See, anti-Zionist, all these newfangled terms. Even my dad doesn't call himself an anti-Zionist or pro-Palestinian. He says, I'm pro-justice, I'm pro-truth. Right? You don't, if you were against the Nazi genocide in the 40s, you wouldn't have been pro-Jew. You just would have been, anti-terror and extermination and anti-horrors. But I love the kind of the route that your grandma took to get there, which is without even having to look into, well, what effect did this have on anyone else? This just sucks. If you actually just look at it on its face, the entire notion that we are now this Goyish mirroring nation like all the other I mean, literally goy means nation, you know, like so nationalism is goyism fundamentally, you know, and we're going to be just like them and we're going to create our own state. Her seeing that that's Hitler logic, that's brilliant. I mean, it's prima facie fascist.
She was like, you know, obviously like an incredibly capable and resourceful person, and like just what a fucking difficult life she had. There is a certain type of like intelligence that you have to like not only get through that life, but to find happiness and meaning through all of that, through all the things that happened earlier in her life and later. But, you know, also didn't really finish high school, definitely did not go to college, was not, but like just her basic understanding of things led her to this place, which I always thought was so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's another interesting thing about that is like, sure, there are a lot of like American dumbass Zionists, like you have your like Rappaports and your Dave Portnoys and stuff, but really the type of Zionist that you see in America is the over intellectualizes everything to the point where they can justify Zionism and justify like just sheer brutality of the state of Israel by kind of intellectualizing it as like, well, if you consider this a land back movement and an indigenous rights movement, then technically it is within their, and you're just like, I think there is kind of like, I don't know. I think there's too many people who try to over-intellectualize it, and that's the kind of Zionism that you see in America, is people who think, no, you're just not smart enough to understand why this brutality needs to happen, as opposed to your grandmother who's like, my parents sold heroin, I lived on a dirt floor with the rats, and then I fucking lived my life, and then I heard about Zionism and I said, that sounds like Hitler, and then goes to charity events.
I think, like, to a certain extent, like, someone who has all these, like, intellectual and philosophical justifications for the worst excesses of Zionism in practice is, at the end of the day, they're trying to fool themselves.
Yeah, 100%.
But it is, it's definitely more, what is a more malign influence on the world? Is it that, or is it, Michael Rappaport going, yeah, boy, we blew up them pages. That's one of the pillars of hip hop. Like, there's always going to be, like, fucking idiots, who are going to support whatever awful thing is going on. But, in some ways, I think it is a more malign thing to be able to come up with, like, a moral and ethical and intellectual justification.
100%. Yeah, it's when you have, like, a fucking graduate degree that you got specifically so that you could, like, reinforce this fucking worldview based on allowing Israel to do murder. Like, that's a lot of money and schooling just to live in a bubble. That's
murderous bigotry arrived at after a lot of chin stroking and, like, soft spoken tones, to me, is much more horrifying than just libidinal tribal cruelty and idiocy. Of course, with Michael Rappaport, it also comes through Hollywood mediocrity, which is its own kind of horror factory.
There's other factors.
I'm not trying to excuse him, but no, I'm with you guys. And again, the kind of politics that your grandmother unostentatiously arrived at is the kind of blind man can see it. Just look at it on its face, and it just doesn't. It's just something in the milk ain't clean. It just doesn't feel right, and you don't. And based on that's kind of all you need. And I think a lot of people have that when it comes to Zionism, which is why it's been relatively easy this year since October 7th, since Israeli has been showing its entire fascist ass to fill people in and be like, oh yeah, right, you're not. And that's entirely the point of this podcast. Our motto basically is, no, you're not crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
I think, like, people who care about foreign policy, and especially Zionism in Israel and America, are they are traumatized by the Bush years, by things they heard growing up, and they think it is an impossibility to get Americans to care about this, because they had an incredible amount of difficulty, to the point of impossibility, of getting people to care about this and think about this and talk about this on their exact terms.
Right.
But and also, it's the same, it is the exact same thing as, like, older left liberals who, like, either McGovern or Mondale broke them. It crushed their spirits. These individual moments in the American electorate where they're like, nothing is ever possible.
Right.
Nothing good can happen. But in all cases, they make the mistake of thinking, like, in the case of the McGovern people, that, like, we're still in 1972 and the electorate is fucking 90% white, and all these things that are not true anymore are true. With people who care about foreign policy on a more left-wing axis, it is that we're still in 2002. Right. Our news media and most of our electeds may still be in 2002. The people decidedly are not.
Yeah.
And it is easy to get pessimistic and get bogged down and think nothing can ever get better. But I don't just because, I don't know how anyone can look at, like, after people had prematurely declared the end of, like, an anti-Zionist left after October 7th. Oh my God, there's no way it can ever fucking have. People said the left won't survive this.
Yeah.
And then the greatest public showing of support for Palestine that we have ever seen in America.
Yeah.
People may not talk about it in the exact terms
Sure.
that maybe you would like them to.
Right.
They may not be able to articulate every single thing that you would like them to.
Right.
But things are just with the
coming
general
around.
populace so much better than people assumed, including
Yes.
myself.
To say nothing of the fact that, and this, not that this should be the headline, but it's a headline, it's a sub-headline.
Yeah.
Just the fact that there's been a very, and I hate this word, but robust Jewish Palestine solidarity, and there always have been Jewish solidarity activists with Palestine, but after October 7th, the Grand Central Station, the Statue of Liberty, shutting down bridges, way more, and in numbers that are big enough at least to forever discombobulate any sort of unanimity narrative. Like no one anymore is trying to claim that all Jews are with Israel.
And not only that, but also like to be real, the big shocker to me is how many Israelis, and not just expats, but like Israelis who currently live there are I don't know if they're outspoken. I think it's much more fucking, draconian.
They're sort of inspoken.
No, but we get emails from, people who are Israelis. Not obviously not that many, because mostly we just talking shit about Israel. But there are a surprising amount of Israelis who live in Israel who are just like, keep going. We're the fucking worst.
Yeah, help us break. Help break us down. I met a guy last night at a JFREG benefit here in Brooklyn, and he approached me. Israeli name, Israeli accent, huge fan of the show.
Wow.
He says, just keep going. Now, I'm not sure if he can tell his friends and family that he is, but I know more Israelis than I can count on several hands who are seeing that the best path forward for their country is some kind of imminent collapse.
Yeah.
Iranian invasion.
I mean, look at all those Dutch, and you can tell that they're Dutch descended white people in EFF.
Yeah,
I always think of them. When people
tell me what EFF is.
Oh, economic freedom fighters.
Okay.
The one of the I don't know a ton about South African politics, but it's Malima's party. He was the former ANC. He was the head of the ANC youth wing, and he broke with the ANC over I think it was Zuma was president, broke a mining strike very brutally. But it's a left wing party in South Africa.
Sure.
And there are so many great pictures and videos of all types of Dutch descended white people, be they the Zoomer type with the Zoomer haircut, or an older middle-aged Dutchman, the type of which you would see in a Rembrandt painting, wearing the red beret, looking terrific in it. And it really shows humanity's better sides.
Yeah. It's nice.
Didn't you find some video of some very South African coded Israeli at some point, Matt?
Oh yeah. Maybe we should start there before we get on to pagers. There's something about the amount of white South African Jews. This is the annoying thing about Israel, is because I think the pride of world Jewry, in my opinion, has been the fact that there were so many South African Jews who were instrumental allies with the ANC.
Yeah, you might say that they were even a more core part of that freedom struggle than our very vaunted liberal Jewish support for civil rights in the South, right, of the United States, right?
100%.
They took bigger
brought
risks.
Weapons into the country.
They were they were the Underground Railroad in a lot of ways.
100%.
Yeah.
And what sucks is watching the fucking the way Israel loves to they have a few different Hasbaras who are very clearly South African Jews who just who left in 93, and then making them have the accent I can only describe as what if you mix two poisons together and make a super poison, just Israeli South African accent. And I want to play this one video just because content aside, it's the accent that really shines through. So this is from the Israeli citizen spokesperson's account. This is, by the way, Elon Levy's like the private media company he created after getting fired from the office of the prime minister. This is his like, what if I just was still a spokesperson?
He's awesome. He is like Kenny Powers showing up to Little League games because he sets up like a podium and shit in his living room, and he's like, I have never heard anyone describe themselves as a freelance
spokesperson.
like he's a mercenary spokesman. He's big boss. It's such a funny type of person. It's one of a billion things with his kind of like, if Zionism never was put into practice, how funny it would be.
Yeah.
If they weren't doing the fucking Holocaust,
I know.
all of this could be purely funny.
Yeah.
All of these guys could be so funny.
Yeah.
But no, they I mean, kind of like how the Nazis, in Matt Crispin's word, were going around looking for Hagar the Horrible Skull to worship. It's the same thing. It's like, why do you have to kill all these people? You could be so funny otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. So here is this Israeli spokesperson. I don't know the name. Doesn't really matter. But here we go.
I love the handle, Israeli citizen Spokes.
Yeah.
But it reads like, but it's like spooks. Basically. Yeah.
So this
Ruth
is
Wasserman
Lande.
Lande for peace.
Yeah. This is a Lande back movement. Let's see. The Lande of Israel. All right, here we go.
A UN convoy in Gaza was stopped by the Israeli military because of a suspicion that several wanted men were on one of those vehicles. Apparently, the UN gives rides to wanted men in a war zone.
I'm sorry, but like, if you start out this video with just that first sentence, you go like, oh shit, she's describing a war crime and she's mad about it. But instead, it just goes on to be like, and here's the reasons why it's okay to do this.
Can I
please?
Can I just say, this is a type of person that I've seen very much in the international Hasbara movement.
Uh-huh.
Someone who, like, you go to their profile, proud Jew, I will never be ashamed of being Jewish.
Yeah.
I'm not like one of those fucking pussies who died in the Holocaust. You'll never get me to renounce my Judaism.
Yeah.
And then you look at them and it's like, oh my God, you got surgery to remove every Jewish feature that you have.
I know. You've bleached blonde your hair. It is so annoying because these are the same people who, after October 7th, were like, hashtag would you hide me? And I'm just
I forgot about that.
It's like, hide you from what? Nobody knows you're Jewish.
Would you hide me? It's like a Mr. Beast video. Hey, we're having 20 contestants in a Jew hiding contest.
Yeah.
Who can hide the most Jews
Who can
in
hide
this
the most
grocery store?
Would you smuggle in my blonde hair color?
It's like a game show. You can hear an audience chanting, "Would you hide me?"
It's fucking insane to me. It's like one of the things that drove me crazy.
Yeah, I'd hire you. I'd like
hide you.
I'd hide you. I would just like bring you aboard as like I'd put you out front.
Right.
And then
exactly.
the Nazis would walk in and they'd like Sieg Heil you and you'd Sieg Heil them and everything would be great.
Yes.
Like, that would be the hiding. I would just put you in plain sight.
Yeah, after your fucking buccal fat removal and your bleached hair and your fucking nose job.
Yes. It's so fucking insane because I swear to God, the only people I see who were doing that hashtag were all like blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jews. It was all a very specific type of like non-identifiably Jewish by like, Nazi physiognomy standards, right? And so it drove me fucking crazy because I'm like, I know Italians who have more of a right to be scared than you do. Like, what do you think is going to happen? You look They don't look like the people in the fucking trains in Schindler's List. They look like the little girl who is doing this, like slitting her throat to all that. That's who they look like. They all look fucking Polish and Swedish and shit.
When Amy Schumer would do this, it drove me crazy.
Right?
Because Amy Schumer, no offense to anyone who looks like or is Amy Schumer, but like she looks exactly like any fans of Band of Brothers. Do you remember the episode Why We Fight?
Yeah.
When they find the baker and he's like, "Why are you taking my bread?" And I forget. I think it may be Compton, or was Compton too shell shocked? It was someone else. One of the officers, whereas he owns an Easy Company, like sticks a fucking Colt 45 in his face, and it's like, you knew exactly what was fucking going on.
You didn't smell it. Yeah.
She looks like that guy.
Right. Well, here's the thing, Felix. I know it's not genetic because I met her brother.
And you met this late? No.
Amy Schumer's brother.
Yeah, that's right.
At a pro-Palestine event, who came up to me to thank me for the Instagram stuff I was putting out. This is before I think I was doing the show with Matt, but he told me that like she and him have had a falling out over this, and this guy looks hella Jewish. Right. And I can see that they're siblings, but there's something about her ideology and her worldview that like de-Judifies.
Yeah, that Gentiled her.
It goyified her features.
Yeah.
It's so crazy because like I've never, there are all types of Jewish people, I know.
Of course.
I have never met one who looks like that. Yeah. Who looks like that, who could be someone that Conan the Barbarian was friends with.
Yes.
Like the girl who makes like the sheath for his sword or something.
She looks like fucking like the progeny of the American Gothic couple. Like, she looks corn-fed. Like, she looks like a regular, just a white American who's tired of all these immigrants. You know, like, there's no part of her that I'm like, oh, that's a Jewish person. And here's the thing. Yes, Jews look like everything. There's not like a fucking one type. There's not, it's not to support that, but it's just weird that out in front, there's like two types of Israeli spokespeople out in front. One is the biggest titted, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl you've ever seen. And then also like someone who's like a Yemeni Israeli, and it's just, I don't know, man. It freaks me out.
This is insane. This looks like the moms of several women I've dated.
Yeah. Right.
Apparently, the UN gives rights
to on the nose to be a villain in the
wanted
Lethal
men
Weapon movie.
in a war zone. Were the suspects UN staff, perhaps? UNRWA head Philip Lazzarini called Israel's action.
Someone's been taking Duolingo.
I like to think
Lazzarini.
She did that a little bit racistly, which only an Israeli could be racist against Italians at this point.
A violation.
I'm just waiting for her to like respond to something that the South African delegation, someone from the ICJ thing, and just for her to pull out something. What was it? Lethal Weapon 3. But you're black.
Yeah.
You're black.
It's not a violation.
You're a lawyer, but you're black.
Every, let's call them Saxon descended woman who I've ever known in my life, where they, sometimes mothers and daughters are natural enemies. This is one of those cases where it's like, what's your relationship with your mom like? Oh, there was actually a court case about it because we both poisoned each other.
Yeah.
This is what the mom always looks like in one of those cases.
Poisoned each other.
One of those like sort of waspish mothers and daughters who hate each other.
Yeah.
She looks like the mom in every one of those instances I've ever witnessed in my life.
Helga the kibbutznik.
We know that UNRWA always plays dumb when called out for its close ties with Hamas.
You're right about you're really right about the accent.
The accent is fucking wild, dude.
Just like it's wavering over the Israeli Afrikaans.
It's Israeli,
line,
and South African.
Both of them are so skin curling.
I think it's officially like this is the apartheid accent. Like this is like distilled. Like this is how you talk when you're like, I love walls that separate races and religions.
Hamas intelligence headquarters was found just underneath an UNRWA headquarters in Gaza City, with electric wires going underground to power Hamas computers.
Okay, wait a minute though.
That
But her
same
pronunciation
Laza-
of Hamat is interesting because when you get the combination of Afrikaans and Israeli, you get something closer to Arabic.
Yeah, she's almost.
Yeah.
Hamas, you know that.
Don't let them hear you say that. They'll be like, see?
Yeah, I told you.
She's not doing the Hamas.
Yeah, no, she's saying Hamas.
Hamas.
Yeah, which is closer.
Yeah.
But let's see how she does Lazzarini again.
Lazzarini said.
That was so hateful.
It was, right? I'm not making this up. It sounds like she's mad at the accent.
Same Lazzarini said UNRWA did not know what is under its headquarters in Gaza.
Headquarters in Gaza, but
It's crazy because I realize, like, when you're watching that, like, half of the videos that come out from the citizen spokesperson of Israel office or whatever Elon made up, like, you start tuning out because they just say Hamas or Hamas over and over again, and fucking
Hamas
like at one point she talked about Hamas computers.
Yeah. It blends together and you lose track of the insane things they're actually saying, which is like, oh, you want us to not bomb this place even though it had electrical wiring that the computers are being plugged into?
Yes.
You know, like every building in the fucking world.
As if there's like...
Yeah, like pointing to like a hospital and being like, oh, if it's just an innocent hospital, how come it has electrical outlets?
I love it too because the justification there is that like Hamas was like stealing cable essentially.
Yeah. My family stole cable until I was 4 and our house burned down. So that's probably the roots of my parents' antipathy
towards Israel. Oh,
or my dad's at least.
Speaking of Hamas, speaking of antipathy towards Israel, speaking of everything, we need to get to a story that obviously is what's being talked about this week. That is the pagers that have been exploding all over Lebanon and also in Syria. Something like so far 3,200 injured, 26 people dead.
2 days in a row.
2 days in a row.
Are we breaking before this, Matt?
Yeah, but before we do that, we should take a quick commercial break. So everyone, stick around and, you know, don't buy, if any of these products are Israeli technologies, definitely don't buy them now. Stick around. We'll be right back. And we're back. Welcome back to Bad Hasbara. Our guest, once again, is Felix Biederman from Chapo Trap House. And we're talking about this terrorist attack that happened this week within Lebanon and also Syria, in which apparently Israel sold a bunch of pagers with bombs in them and different like radio equipment with bombs in them in order to do a coordinated attack by blowing up the pagers and I don't know. Yeah, they killed a bunch of people.
Yeah, walkie-talkies as well.
Yeah.
8-year-old girl was killed.
Yeah, and so let me just play, just to have PBS NewsHour did.
Oh, good. They'll
little
handle the
bit.
facts for us.
Yeah, they'll say like complete sentences about what had happened.
Good.
An unprecedented and shocking attack. All across Lebanon today, pagers used by members of the militant group Hezbollah exploded. Lebanon's health ministry says 2,700 people were injured and 9 were killed, including a young girl.
So what happened? Officially, we do not know. As you said, Hezbollah blamed Israel. I asked an Israeli official about that. The only response I got was an emoji of a shrugged shoulders. So that's what Israel is saying, nothing.
I truly hate this fucking Elon Musk ass country. Like just the amount of shit posting mileage that they are trying to get out of this.
I swear to God, the most horrifying part of all of this for me, and this is not the most horrifying part of it at all, just the part that's disturbing my peace the most, is that it turns out that I have a shitty caricature of a Hasbarist lodged in my head somewhere.
Right.
And it is it's like it's AI producing all of the predictable, gloaty, smuggy things. I'm walking down the street and I hear a voice saying, "Can't talk right now. My phone's blowing up." I'm like, and it starts to cackle Michael Rappaport. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, this is their moment. This is their moment. Oh, they should, and Eli Lake actually ended up saying this. We should call them because we took the balls out of them,
Right.
Just all of this fucking garbage. They think they're Walter White now,
I know. It's just one of those moments where you can, I don't know. This is my experience. Felix, because you didn't grow up with the Zionism virus deep in your brain, like for me, there was a time where the idea of Israel in my head was like, oh, they're just like James Bond country, like the Mossad.
Yeah. No, I was
cool.
very familiar with that though. That was like, if you were on the internet, in that time, that was like that they were brilliant super soldiers. That was always the portrayal of Israel. So yeah, no, I mean, that's honestly what attracted a lot of like younger kids
100%
to Zionism around the time I was growing up.
But back
and
then,
now
there was
probably.
also the notion that they were a sensitive, brilliant super soldier army, right? So that the shooting and crying was the expression. I forget.
Well, right, that there were.
That there was a sense
I grew up thinking they were the good guys.
Yeah, well, the most moral army, right?
Yeah,
But now it's like they're just that fucking lunatic. Nerd on the Mission Impossible team,
right?
And they're supposed to be the heroes.
Well, no, the crazy thing is like I know that thing is in my brain because like when I first saw that that little like Zionist James Bond nerd in my head, just like the one who makes shitty puns in your head, pops up and was just like, wow, that must have taken a lot of coordination. And then and then I fucking
wow,
read
to think the Jewish people came from started from the bottom. Now we're doing this.
And now we're here.
We're here.
And then like as soon as I start reading the details of what had happened, I was just like, oh, this is straight up just a terrorist attack. They just did a mass terrorist attack.
I mean, if this was actually like coordinated to the point where they knew people's exact locations, it is singularly sociopathic. They if that is the case, then they did it in such a way where it would like mayhem and disfigure and permanently disable and kill as many like children and people shopping for groceries and anything like that possible. I think this is one of those things where we're not going to know the exact story on this for a little while.
Yes.
It could very well be that Mossad got into the supply chain. Mm-hmm. It could be that these were randomly placed and they're like, oh yeah, no, everyone we killed was fucking Hezbollah, because they certainly like that move. And like, there's no drawback for them doing that, because like anyone who matters as far as their Western support will believe that.
Yeah,
or
that'll be the official story forever, or at least for the next year.
And it still gets to engender like distrust and suspicion and paranoia.
Right.
So like who really knows until we know, right?
Right.
But the least we could say with what we know now is that this was 1000% like a reckless terrorist attack directed at civilians. You could say, oh, but it was the fucking Hamas or the Hezbollah pagers.
Right.
Okay, and that's why you blew them up in a grocery store.
Right.
The produce section fucking Hezbollah. And by the way, this benefits so much from like the American perception that any group with an Arabic name is like are a bunch of like just pre-verbal savages living in caves and stoning
100%.
women. Not that this is one of the most coherent state-like apparatuses in Lebanon. That this is this is as legitimate of a political entity as fucking anything.
Yes.
And
100%.
They have an armed force, they have social services.
Yes.
They are, they're as legitimate as anything else.
Yeah, they're essentially like a statewide municipality or bureaucracy that kind of it's a state within a state is the way a lot of people have described it. But
it would be as if
states are a thing.
If Putin had somehow rigged like Democratic Party lanyards to like strangle their owners, you know.
Putin, if you're listening,
and they strangled a bunch of pages and like service workers as well. You know, I'm not saying you shouldn't.
I'm not saying I'm against it. 100%, it is like just clearly a terrorist attack,
and it's not even cyber terrorism. That's the thing. People want to use that term. It's not even cyber terrorism. The fact that he uses cybernetic technology or whatever the fuck. Cyber terrorism is when you like shut down Etsy on Black Friday or something like that, right? Yeah. This is like when you explode the phones, you're out of the realm of like causing chaos by doing techie things on the internet.
Yeah. It would be like calling the destruction of the King David Hotel hospitality terrorism.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what's interesting is that you see some people trying to claim, no, there wasn't any bombs, you know, embedded in them. They figured out a secret line of code that makes the pager explode and stuff like that.
What? The Dan Ninen joke about the Samsung Galaxy S7? That's not how this works.
Yeah, and you could tell that like this is like what actually happened will not be known for a while, because right now they are very, very like committed to creating a narrative of what happened, which was that Israel did some James Bond shit, and we're just like cool like that.
Oh my god, yeah, I saw a fucking post that was like, racists hate it when Jews do something clever, which is 1000% what Harvey Weinstein said when he forced his first person into signing an NDA. Yeah. Just a Jewish guy doing something clever.
Yeah, you don't like when Jews are clever. But this, I think it's like one of the worst parts about it is watching them do just a terrorist attack that is rather than like a series of like car bombings or like we're just going to put them in pagers, almost like a prank with mass death and injuries. And it's just like you just there's like you said, it's a sociopathy to it where you just kind of what I realized was when I watched everyone's universal reaction who wasn't born thinking like, you know, Mossad is James Bond and that's cool, just be like, that seems like sickening and horrifying. I was just like, oh yeah, that is sickening and horrifying that they would do this. And it's weird though, because to get to the reactions of what's happening, there's been a few different types of reactions. One seems to be in Israel, in which everyone is like dancing, but it feels forced.
Well, yeah, because this does feel like a countenance to the dozens of instances of Israeli soldiers trying on bras and wandering into windows and getting fucking collided by Al Ghuls, or all the guys, all the lieutenant admirals who wandered into giant mouse traps underneath Gaza, or any of the numerous humiliating things. All the Merkavas that were turned into fucking air fryers, the shortages of APCs and tanks they're experiencing. It does feel like, okay, we're going to get one back over on you. We're going to try to get something equally humiliating,
right,
to what we have experienced. And it does, there is an aspect where I think that most people, what they think is like either coordinated or a conspiracy when it comes to posts can always be more easily explained by just, you know, bad posting.
Yes. No.
I don't think there was like a memo sent out that's like, we need to make all these shitty Hezbollah ball jokes. But it just
it was giving people a chance to finally I get to shit post, and it won't directly be about a dead baby that I made. You know,
exactly.
They've been Rambo for the past year. Do we get to win this time? You know,
do we
get the shit post this time? And For a couple of
it's
days,
like,
they do.
So for them, they look at this and they're like, we can shitpost about this because we can make ball jokes, and it's not genocidal, right, guys? And when you look at what happened, you're like, no, this is like fucking insane. And what's been interesting is watching the kind of, well, here's a few videos of the reaction within Israel that I just, I want to play for us. So this is a guy on a bulldozer waving. He's not waving. He's just holding up an Israeli flag.
Dressed up like an Arabian sheikh or something.
Jacques,
Yeah.
no! Jacques from Seeking Derangements. I'm just kidding.
My favorite video is this is a bunch of IDF soldiers that on a basketball court somewhere in some base in Israel, or I assume, and they're dancing. But if you look at the faces, do any of these guys look like they're actually having fun? And this is just, for me, I was just like, someone pulled out a camera and said, all right, guys, we got to celebrate this. There's just seems to be no... I feel like there's a joylessness to a lot of, like, Israelis of late. And I think a lot of it is because...
Everybody wake up. We are having a dance party in basketball court, Gimel, to celebrate the recent forced circumcision of Hezbollah terrorists in Beirut supermarkets. We blow up their cell phones, everybody. We are the most moral. Get out and dance your tachats off.
It reminds me of the video of the girl who was, she was, I think one of the people taken prisoner on October 7th.
Yeah,
right.
Noah, Noah Argamani.
Yeah, her boyfriend is still locked up.
Yeah.
But she was at a beach party, like on a guy's shoulders.
Yeah.
With her
And
dad.
it actually, with her dad doing like a chicken fight with another guy. It actually reminded me of the famous post, "Don't worry, bro. She's just having a little sex. She'll be right back." But every video I've seen, of that where this campaign of like "We will dance again,"
Yeah.
which is, hopefully not in New Jersey, but no, we don't want a repeat of that one.
Not again, guys.
Timber.
But a very forced joy.
Yes.
Reminds me of when people will like, whenever this used to be like a thing online. People don't do it as much anymore because I think people realize how ridiculous it looks when you're getting yelled at. You post a video of you at like a party and you're like, oh yeah, I care so much about everyone who found out about my kidnapping conviction.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can look at all these people who are distancing themselves from me because I wore mirrors on my shoes at Bloomingdale's. Oh yeah, the trolls really won.
Yeah.
That applied to like a national scale.
Yes. It's a whole country of people who are just doing the fucking, the Wojak or whatnot of the like crying guy wearing the mask. It's weird because it seems so apparent to, I think, everybody else, like they're just the idea of this like kind of forced like I'm not owned, you're owned thing that they have where you just can't help but go like there's no way you guys see yourself, right?
I mean, I think you are right in the sense that like they needed something where it was like, you can't talk about how clever you are or the racial superiority and the cleverness of the Jewish people or like how resilient you are when you are dropping 2,000-pound bombs, rippling several dozen 2,000-pound bombs on a refugee camp and leaving a fucking 70-meter crater in the earth.
Yeah.
Or shooting Hellfire missiles at preschoolers.
Not that they didn't try. They made a lot of content out of that. Just none of it stuck.
Yeah, but like with something,
this is their first operation that that is reminiscent at all of the finesse that they've always liked to think that they actually have, because there's been no finesse to what Israel's been doing for the past year.
I mean, like Israel, there are like foundational operations in the let's call it the Israel military fandom, right? Of things that they did that they feel that like no one else could have. Like some things that are like just from an objective military standpoint are like, you know, kind of like the Entebbe raid, right?
Right.
Where it's like, you know, at a time when so many counterterrorism units were trying and failing at hostage rescue.
Yes.
They pulled this up, like them and that SAS operation with the Iranian embassy in London in 79. Those were like sort of the few like super successful ones at that time.
Munich too, right?
Right, the retributive killings.
Munich. All the hostages died in Munich.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, right.
Well, I thought you meant like the retributive killing.
Oh, like the movie. Yeah.
But like, you know, this is with Israel and like with any army like this, where their focus changes from like the traditional focus of a military to internal repression and sabotage and mass murder and racialized elimination. A military loses its ability to fight when you gear it more towards that. We've seen it happen a billion other instances throughout history. Since that has happened, since you know, what I don't know if you could put a definite timestamp on this, but probably around 2005, the first kind of globally recognized humiliation of the IDF. It became clear that this is not the same military that could do the raid on Entebbe or any of these things, right?
Right.
So I do wonder if like they were just keeping this in their back pocket. However they did this, whether they got into the supply chain or fucking whatever.
Yeah.
They were keeping this in the back pocket because
in their back pocket, so to speak. Ha.
Yeah. I saw you trying to stop yourself.
Don't put it in your front pocket. I hate it. Fucking hate it.
But they felt like, they needed like a historical one like this because you remember when they got that one hostage after 80% of the other hostages have been killed, and like they keep saying they have control over Gaza. They don't. That one operation where they killed like 80 people to get one.
Yeah.
And they were like, they tried to paint that one as one of these foundational Israeli military successes. And that really didn't, you know, anyone who wasn't directly salaried by Foundation for Defense of Democracies was not really into that one.
Yeah.
So this is, round 2.
Yeah, I mean, they've done that with a couple of hostage rescues where there's, you know, there was the one guy and they killed 80 people. There was, I think, the 4 that they killed over 300 people.
The Nusrat Market.
Nusrat Market. And so, and each of those times it's been the same thing where they just, you know, people are like, you sure are killing a lot of people for something that could be done with a hostage exchange.
My favorite one is when they're like, that's how much we value our people.
Right, yeah.
We will kill
150
of yours to get one. That's how much we love life.
Yeah, that's how much we love life. But, you know, it's like every single time, you know, people are like, damn, that's fucked up. And they're just like, we can't do fucking anything without you guys complaining. Like,
I want to ask you guys this a couple things. Do you so this past year it has come out that, you know, Israeli detention facilities, we'll call them, that they scoop up people by dragnet. They'll take anyone who is at the wrong place at the wrong time. School teachers, grandparents, school kids, anyone. They don't even pretend that this is for their own safety or there is any military value or that anything of value could be extracted from these people because they know they're just Palestinian civilians with no connections to PIJ or Hamas or anything. It turned out that there were rampant systematic sexual abuses at these facilities to the point that like it's very likely an official publicity. And
and one of the guards complained that it wasn't. His only complaint is that they haven't regulated it. We should be allowed to do this. There should be regulations. There should be HR handbooks about how to rape people. Come on, guys, let's get this done. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but because of the ICJ trial and all the focus on these things, the Israeli government, or the military more so, was like, oh shit, this looks really bad. We have to look like we're kind of taking this seriously. So we'll like just arrest these guys, and hopefully it will be out of the news cycle in 3 months.
Hopefully,
and,
they'll go quietly and all be good.
And then we'll turn them into TV personalities.
Well, the Israelis could not even hold it together for that's right. that, and they rioted over the detention of these guys. They turned one of the rapists into a TV star.
Yeah.
And one thing I've noticed is, I don't like to be one of these guys who say everyone who replies to me angrily is a state agent. I really, there are only a few people I know where I could say, where I think they have the right to say that. I think when most people who are just guys like me say that, it is an attempt to make themselves sound important.
Yes.
But we'll just say people on the pro-Israel side who regularly get mad at me and reply to me, the one thing that really seems to stymie them and that they cannot come up with a response for, besides like, you're disgusting, you're crazy for saying that, so no defense, is when you bring this up. When you bring up the ritualized sexual torture committed by Israel. And the overwhelming...
First rule of Fight Club, Felix. First rule of Fight Club.
Yeah. The overwhelming support that Israelis have for this. Because what can you say, right? What can you say without sounding psychotic?
Right.
And saying, oh, it's impossible for a Jew to rape a fucking Gentile, which is what they actually think.
Yeah.
But I do, like... Do you feel like they are trying to sort of scramble to put anything in the news but that?
Oh,
in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I feel like so a lot of, from what I've noticed, a lot of their media strategy has been when something bad is caught on video that makes them look bad, that would be in the news cycle, they quickly try to pivot everyone's attention, and through the state means usually they try to change the subject. Like after the ICJ opinion, there was an immediate attack on UNRWA that through their own clout as a Western client state, they were able to get at least the United States to immediately pull funding from UNRWA over an accusation that turned out to be completely fabricated. So like with the specific thing about the how rapey they are, I don't know if, to be honest, if there had been like a big uproar in national news, if it had been a thing in most like mainstream media, maybe I would say, they were trying to change the subject, but I didn't really hear much from.
Well, that is the thing, is that like following like most American coverage, you basically have no idea this fucking because there are very few people, if any, are asking the State Department about this.
Right.
God forbid anyone asks Kamala about this, who has said that under no circumstances will weapons be taken off the table.
It's the crazy thing about it too is like I realize how I don't know how uninformed I am about kind of like what the national body politic or whatever is, what kind of information they're getting. But when I watch like the DNC speeches and shit, and I just hear like multiple times from speakers, including Kamala Harris, talking about all the beheadings and rapes and burned babies that Hamas did, and I go like, oh man, where I think generally at least the United States people have not been hearing the stories about the systemic rape that is happening as a matter of almost policy in the detention centers in Israel against Palestinians. Like, no, I don't think anyone's hearing about this. I think they're still repeating Hasbara from like October 8th.
Yeah, and they clearly haven't had a chance to hear the multiple ways in which all those stories have been debunked. Felix, the most I would say is I think that Israel does have a kind of, whether it's conscious or it's just sort of an instinct, a latent instinct for whenever they get caught doing something that no one can cheer for, they find some way to do something that the psychos can cheer for, and the State Department can run cover about and be like, well, we're looking into it. You know, like the rape prisons was a very, very difficult and uncomfortable thing for fucking Patel and Matthew Miller and John Kirby to have to stand up there and answer questions about, as was the killing of Aishanur Egi. You know, but when it comes to a daring international, assassination of someone that lots of people hate, and doing things that are sort of U.S. style, like they're sort of more the U.S.'s thing,
right?
That's a pivot they can make. So to us, it's just horror to horror to horror.
Yeah.
But for them, they're moving from things that no one could possibly ever defend to things that at least give some people ideological boners. Does that make sense?
No, that makes complete sense. That is sort of the media strategy for everyone nowadays. It's when caught in a difficult spot, all you can really do is like pump the bass up, and that can just get you on through to the next thing.
Exactly. It starts getting a bit shrill. You up the mids, the bass. You drop the beat. You spike the fucking. I don't know what they drink at Burning Man now, but you get the crowd hyped again. You get it turned.
Yeah. Just to continue on talking about this story, just seeing kind of the reactions that have been happening. This is what I got really excited about was I don't get as excited about the right wing kind of like, meathead, blood and soil reactions as I do about the like concern trolling liberal Zionist reactions.
Or the sober reactions.
Yes. Yeah, and so we have one video from Yishai Fleischer, who have we played him on this show before?
We sure have, because he and Jonathan Death Rictus were the Conricus were the two guys that were trying to pile on my brother on the Piers Morgan show.
That's right.
But Aaron ably one-on-two'd them while Guido and Levy sat there.
That was like watching the fucking raid. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was
great.
That was some pretty good judo. JEWDO.
Ooh, nice. So yeah, I have a little bit of Yishai Fleischer with his sober reflections on a terrorist attack.
This is the one who said to my brother, "You sitting there in Brooklyn with your little books." And
Aaron's with your books.
Aaron's like, "Yes, I
read." Aaron said, "Yes, I read books."
Aaron, I've never seen anyone like. There are people who like, they have ice running through their veins, but like, Aaron, people say the most insane shit to Aaron.
Yeah.
Everyone who argues with Aaron is like, you work in a concentration camp. You're fucking Hitler. You're the worst guy ever.
Yeah.
You're evil. And he never even like gets pissed. It's incredible.
He's somehow technically he's the son of Gabor Mate, but I have to think of him. He's sort of the son of Noam Chomsky, Eckhart Tolle, and Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig.
Yeah,
I'm so impressed. Easy. I'm so impressed by it. Like when I have a bad interaction with TSA, I will
whine.
I'll start whine, but then I'll make a fake LinkedIn profile and like look for the guy who I thought was rude. Before spending like 4 hours on that and being like, what the fuck am I doing? This is stupid.
Yeah.
But I've already like wasted an afternoon doing it.
Well, yeah.
I'm like more accustomed to people yelling at me online just because it's, since I was 12, that's sort of been my objective.
Yeah.
But just like he's nothing really. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, this was I think is exactly what I was saying about him too. Was that when we talked about that thing, I was like, it is wild that he is not yelling, because
he has this rare thing of being someone who's able to be online a lot because that's where he does his work. And at the same time, genuinely means it when he says this is not real life, it's just online. Like for a lot of us, we're online a lot and we want to say, oh, it's just online, but it gets its hooks in us, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it gets its hooks in him to a much less degree.
I'll put a fucking handle into Google and type phone number next to it just to see.
Anyway, he'll really appreciate that, Felix. I'll pass that on.
Yeah, I've just always been so impressed by it. I think that like this isn't real life is usually when someone says it, it's like you are trying to convince yourself.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
With him, it's actually not.
No,
He it's not that he's got total ice in his veins. He you can see him, and in that interview in particular, he got a little heated, but he always sticks to the facts, and that's where Chomsky has, his biggest influence on him. Just, when the facts are on your side, you don't need to get too heated.
Yeah. His heated is just like, it's like he just more forcefully puts out the point.
Yeah.
It's not like, my heated.
Can you imagine
furiously huffing on your face?
Now, you're an older brother, yes, Felix? You have.
I'm the youngest.
Oh, you're the youngest. Okay, so Matt, do you have siblings? You're a twin.
I'm a twin, but I'm also the youngest.
You're also the youngest. Okay,
she's older than me by a minute.
All you older siblings out there, try to imagine what it's like being the older sibling, and the only leverage you have is the ability to upset your younger.
I know. I can't even imagine.
Can you imagine what it was like for me?
Yeah, that sucks.
It explains at least half my issues.
That makes so much sense because, my brother and sister could upset me pretty much like on command.
Yep, same.
When I was a kid, and there's a great age difference between us, and so that was a very short-lived period. It was when they were in middle school and very young, and by the time they were young adults, that had totally subsided. But it's just the shit that all siblings do at some point,
Right. No, but when your younger sibling knows that you can't get to them.
I tried that so much.
Fucked.
There was a good 2-year period in middle school where I was like, I'm just going to pretend to be not phased. And then my brother would find an in. Yeah. He just always knew where all my what nerve to pick.
Aaron had all the ins on me. He went up to me once.
That's
when I was
fucking crazy.
I was all pissed off at him. He goes up to me, he gets right in my face. I think he was 8 or something. I was 11. And he spoke words of such devastating truth that I had no response. He said, "You're just jealous because all the girls like me."
Oh, wow. Wow.
And he was right.
Anyway,
so what does Yishai Fletcher have to say?
Oh, just some sobering words about what
Israelis are proud today because our enemies have been struck. And these are the enemies that got a kind of tit for tat, a measure for measure. Because if you think about it, the explosions that took place in Lebanon are an answer to what happened to us on October the 7th.
How?
If you think about it. No, Matt, it's if you think about it.
Well, yeah,
so stop, pause.
My problem is I didn't think about it.
The little girl who just wanted to learn English.
He's about to mention her, actually.
That is the mark of the liberal Zionist. Hey, it's unfortunate, but
but war's war.
Surprised us. They killed 1,200 of our people. They raped, they pillaged, and today those same type of forces that would do it again were exploded. I'm not doing a lot of laughing about it. There's humor out there. There's a lot of people making jokes at the expense of Hezbollah. I'm not doing.
Are we doing chut to Hezbollah as well? What are we doing? At this point, they're just putting it on. I don't believe in this. This whole chut thing is a conspiracy to me.
This is the difference between a liberal Zionist and a regular one. Is that a regular Zionist, there's just no limit. They will go. They killed 1,200 of us on October 7th and raped 20 million of us.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
A liberal Zionist will not commit himself to a figure,
right?
Well,
1,200 says producer Adam. Well, actually, it might surprise you. This guy's a settler. This guy's a settler rabbi.
Shocking.
In the West Bank. So I don't know how liberal he is, but he is trying to affect a kind of sobriety and maturity. Can we finish his beard stroking?
I'm laughing about it
sermon?
because there's also children that got hurt and others. But at the end, the enemies of Israel should know that we mean business. And we will not allow our nation to be attacked by these jihadist forces. And they can live in fear. Just like they caused us to live in fear, they will now live in fear. That is measure for measure. That's the way of God. That's the way of Israel. Hezbollah, beware.
That's the way of God?
That's the way of God.
Happy Yom Kippur, everyone. Yeah. Happy high holidays.
Yeah, anyone who has read the Tanakh knows God's favorite thing is when you're like, I am God.
Yeah.
I'm God and I'm doing his stuff.
This is number one thing.
Yeah,
His
he wants
favorite
you to
thing.
do that.
And God said unto Moses, go to the people and say to them, well, God wants me to do this shit.
Yeah,
this is the way. Tell them about me, and this is the
There's a lot of killing for God in the Tanakh, but there's not a lot of like, I am God.
I am God.
Me, the guy. I am God.
in my car.
Yeah. The like overwhelmingly modern scenarios, and you're like, God wants this. It's like, okay, it says in this book.
Well, it just so Protestant almost. Just the we have figured it all out of it.
Yes.
The premature conclusions. God's will is just immediately coherent to any dumbass on earth. It's direct. There's no question.
It's not only the end of history; it's the end of theology.
Yeah. I mean, no, that is it is the Calvinization of, everyone that lives in the West.
Yeah.
Everyone who lives
in
in the
that's
West,
true.
no matter what, you're going to get a little Calvinism.
Yeah.
And this is the Jewish version of that.
Yeah.
Cast this guy in the crucible straight away.
Yeah.
But then there's like an absolutely goated liberal Zionist tweet by a guy who I think
this guy's a genuine liberal Zionist.
Yeah, no, this is a weird guy. I mean, this is just it's like one of the most ideologically confused guys, who's like he's one of those I hate Netanyahu guys, but I'll fight to the death his right to kill however many people he wants.
Not only I hate, you were talking about Shael ben Ephraim, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So he's one of these guys who's like, I hate Netanyahu. I hate what Zionism has become. I hate how basic so many Zionists on this hell site are. We should have a lot more decorum as we obliterate Gaza. This is not a time for celebration.
Yeah.
And then he'll say, Netanyahu doesn't want to bring back the hostages. We should be wanting to live in peace with the Palestinians.
Right.
Once we get done destroying. I mean, and he's trying to save Zionism from itself.
Right.
People accuse me of trying to save Israelis from themselves.
Yeah.
Yes, not as Israelis, but as human beings,
right,
who might have some sanity somewhere in. Yeah,
right.
Ideal scenario. I'd like to live in a world where human beings can be redeemed and but he's trying to save Zionism from its own worst tendencies, as if its worst tendencies aren't itself.
Yes, this is like this guy's like the. What AOC is to the Democrats, this guy is to Zionism.
That's a sick burn. So everyone, Matt has some thoughts, and they're kind of spicy.
No, just like the way in which he has clung to this idea that no matter what, my version of Zionism is the real Zionism. No matter what consequences Zionism is wrought across not just Israel and Palestine, but like just in the West.
Except
he's just like,
unlike AOC,
my
he's
Zionism is good Zionism. All right, so I got to show the tweet.
But he's convincing no one. Go ahead.
Okay, so in Jerusalem, a man hands out sweets after the Israeli operation in Lebanon. He says, it never ceases to amaze me how some Israelis will mock and hate all Palestinians while adopting their worst customs.
Isn't that incredible?
This is the inverse of another thing that I kind of hate.
Yeah.
So this is always, maybe it's because, I am, I was divorced from a lot of the identity politics a lot of other Jewish Americans are raised with, but it's always humiliated me when people are like, it's so fucking Jewish to do this good thing.
Right.
We invented helping people.
Yeah, we invented loving your neighbor and healing the world.
You know how tired I am of Tikkun Olam?
Yeah, Tikkun Olam, it pisses me off so much because it's like, we invented altruism.
We invented
Everyone
volunteering.
Was just beating each other over the head and killing their until us. It just always annoyed me so much. But this is the other side of that, where it's like, Palestinians invented being happy when you kill your enemy. No Israeli did that until they encountered these awful people. And
the Iraq war parades never happened in Manhattan.
Right. Or just the idea that you can't hold as true that Israel is a country founded by Holocaust survivors, and also they had never heard of an atrocity until they met a Palestinian.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about? You can't have both of those at the same time. And just the amount of I'm sorry, but this is Irgun erasure. This is
what this is what the Krasensteins would be like under the Third Reich.
Yeah.
Where it's Reinhard Heydrich says he's better than the Jews we're killing, but he's acting like a fucking Jew. Who's the real Jew, pal?
Besides throwing candy, you know where I first encountered throwing candy? At fucking bar mitzvahs.
That's right.
All right, that's ours too.
One of the first things in 2 Samuel, after David, his first big military victory, one of my favorite, David's portions are hilarious, by the way. He's Tony Soprano. He's such a piece of shit. And I think
David?
He's deliberately...
Tony Soprano, if Tony Soprano had a gay lover that he loved more than Carmela.
Yeah.
Didn't Jonathan, right?
Or what? Under some interpretations. But the point of his character is sort of that it's he is a piece of shit, but it's it shows how important an unbreakable covenant with God is.
That's right.
That you can be this complete piece of shit, but as long as you come home at the end of the day. But after one of his first military victories, he kills all these, I think it was Philistines at this point, and he parades through the streets of Israel naked, passing out the ancient Israeli version of candy, raisins. That's how tough times were.
Yeah, it's
a time to celebrate. It's our cheat day. Let's eat some fucking raisins.
Eat some raisins.
Yeah, maybe they were better back then. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
do you have any dry grapes lying around? You can't afford candy.
But Saul's daughter sees this and is like, "Oh, what a great day for Israel that they get to see your dumbass going around naked handing out candy." And then the next line. And there are so many funny lines in 2 Samuel, including the entire story of Uriah, which is hysterical. But he goes.
I did not have Tanakh class.
Yeah,
on my Felix on Bad Hasbara bingo card. I'm so excited.
You know who taught me all this stuff? It was Lutherans. Going to a Lutheran university or not a Lutheran university, but like a Jesuit university in Minnesota, where like Lutherans
that's fucking awesome.
Taught all the. They were so good at teaching Jewish stuff. But anyway, the next line about Saul's daughter is she died later without producing any children, and it's just such a funny line because it's just like, you fuck this hating bitch.
Yeah, fuck these haters. Yeah.
You know,
you didn't even make more guys.
Yeah, this nasty hating hoe.
Yeah.
Getting mad at David.
Yeah,
for being naked.
Fucking school marm died with no kids.
Fucking scold.
That's the way of God. You don't play or hate.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I'm saying in a very roundabout way, long way of saying, we invented handing out candy.
Yes, we did.
After
literally
killing people. More than we invented helping people.
And even if that wasn't true, and it absolutely is, and I'm glad you said it, this guy, Shail Ben Ephraim, acting like fucking friend to the working man, friend to the Palestinian, whatever, being like, you guys, I'm sorry. And his handle is Academic LA or something like that. He's like one of these like thoughtful American Israeli professors.
Wait, this is the guy that got Me Too'd.
Yeah, he also...
No. It's actually, the Zionist version is Gamanid. That's nice. But yeah, he did. So what he's saying is fucking, guys, these people are, we are not going to you're becoming bigoted and you're becoming hateful.
Yes, you're becoming like them.
You're becoming like them. Do not descend, you supremacists, do not descend to their barbarian level. We need to kill them with decorum and in great lamentations.
Yes.
Yeah, dude, I know that, like, no one has any fucking shame anymore. Like, with that Students for Trump guy who fucking pistol whipped his girlfriend is still out there, like, doing fundraisers. No one goes away anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, no one goes away in shame anymore, which is a huge problem we're having.
Yes.
This guy was Snapchatting multiple underage girls.
Yeah. At UCLA, right?
At fucking UCLA, and it's, god damn it, like, there were things about the Trump era that sucked, but at least then, when someone like this was caught doing something fucking disgusting and criminal, they would fucking go away.
Yeah, there was.
But now that it's after the cultural shift due to, like, Depp Heard and all these other things, no one ever fucking goes away. They're like, it would cost me more to go away. I'm staying.
Yeah, no, everyone just has their individual, like, Hasbara team, and they just are like, how do we get the base riled up? That's literally what we were just talking about. It's the same fucking thing. But this guy is like, is fascinating. Like, his brain is fascinating because it's just like there's this commitment to creating his own reality that I think it's like one of those guys who is just like, oh, everyone's mad at me, I must be right.
Right, yeah, I have seen him actually take, like, some surprising stances about, and this is like a trademark liberal Zionist thing, where, like, individual events and actions taken by Israel, like specifically the bombing of refugee camps and stuff like that, he'll be like, this is fucking terrible, this is a war crime, this is awful. But what makes it liberal Zionism is that there's no broader pattern. It's like,
what makes it liberal Zionism is that you append, this is not who we are.
Right.
Exactly. Right. Where it's like, these are like, this is horror. These isolated incidents that have they don't say anything about Zionism, but this is why my form of Zionism is better.
They cross some invisible, non-existent threshold of extremity that I can't really define, because I can't tell you why this thing we did 2 weeks ago that was not much less bad than this is okay with me.
Yeah.
You know, there's just like it's like you wonder why the Israeli left, for decades had been so impotent. And it's because, like, so many in the Israeli left were Ashkenazi. And, it's like a lot of, like, the right wing in Israel are, like, Mizrahim, right? And so, like, a lot of the Ashkenazim, they're all the, like, there's a lot of psycho right wingers, but there was also a contingent of leftists and left liberals, right? And the reason why they just never got anywhere is because I think just that the fucking Europeanness of just being like, guys, we're better than them. Yeah. I think that because they kept the racist part. They were like, but they had the empathy, but it was kind of like, oh, poor savages.
Right. The Ashkenazi racism, is very identifiable. It's, it's
very European style.
What are we? A bunch of fucking Arabs, right?
Yeah.
But
it's like something you'd imagine Steve Buscemi saying in, like, a Zionist Reservoir Dogs. Guys, what are we? A bunch of Arabs here?
Yeah, 100%.
One of the things that always pisses me off about, like, this form of Hasbara, when they're like, oh, we're all white colonialists. Well, what about this fucking Iraqi Jewish guy? It erases the astounding contributions to racism that the Mizrahi have made.
Yes, 100%.
The Ashkenazi, we are just doing the same boring old, like, liberal racialism. Post-Enlightenment bullshit.
Yeah, we stole that from the fucking Europeans. It's not even original.
The Mizrahi are just they're
technologically advanced.
The only thing I can compare it to are, like, things like very marginal, like, weird identity movements that, like, where everyone involved like is in federal prison, like the Moorish Science Temple, you know, like Dwight York type shit. The Moorish Science Temple was like a more insane version of like Black Israelite stuff.
Oh, okay.
Where they made a huge pyramid in like Macon, Georgia. And the leader, Dwight York, he used to be like a musician, but he became like it's a cult. He became a cult leader.
Right. Yeah.
Some really fucking horrific shit to his followers and his rest of the children of his followers. But like the cosmology and belief system, where it's basically like Halo, but like whatever your specific races are the forerunners. That's what like Mizrahi shit is now.
It's innovative.
It's beyond even just like Ovadia shit, where it's like every goy is fucking cattle, and not just that. If you're not this specific type of Jew, you're shit. You're not even really Jewish.
Right.
They go beyond that to like it's like above Mormonism.
Yeah.
Like we are a godlike people.
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure which Mizrahim you're speaking about. I will say that's first of all, Mizrahi refers to, it just means Eastern Jews.
Yeah,
so you're talking about
all
Jews
the
from everywhere, from fucking
in the MENA,
Iran, who aren't even Arabs, all the way to Tunisia, right?
Right.
And they got grouped together by this Ashkenazi supremacy movement, and many of them exfiltrated against their wills from their country, and they got their fucking histories erased and their relationships with their Arab neighbors erased, and their, I was at the panel I was at Jewish Currents, Ariella Aisha Azulai, who here's her book, The Jewelers of the Ummah, a potential history of the Jewish Muslim world, which is what she was born in Israel, but she doesn't consider herself Israeli. She considers herself a Muslim Jew in the sense that her people come from the Muslim world. Anyway, what I'm saying is the Mizrahi-ness has been like basically invented by Zionism, and these people have been driven insane and into the arms of 100%. Their oppressors, and now they're the grunt soldiers of this racist movement, even though that they've been at the shit end of it as 100%. Well. And but the whole history of that is so fucked up.
What I'm hearing is credit where credit is due, at least in the forced melting pot of creating the Mizrahim. At least they're doing something innovative with the racism the right wing in Israel. Whereas like Ashkenazis are just repeating the same shit that, every European colonizer has done,
It is more creative.
Daniel, that is interesting, that entire the idea of like a Jewish Muslim world, because it does I had never known about this really, but like pre-Reconquista Spain, the teocentrismo system, I had never fucking heard about that until I like did study abroad in college in Spain.
Yep.
It like I think like most of the things people say were like, we were taught this in school. It's like, no, you just were not paying attention. Or like it's usually you were taught that, but it was legitimately something I had never heard before in any history class or anything.
Can you explain this? Because this is not a concept I think I'm familiar with. You say teocentrismo?
Yeah, teocentrismo, referring to the cohabitation and peaceful coexistence of Muslims, Jews, and Christians in Caliphate Spain.
Yes, right.
Where there were like, rights for Jews. The Caliphate Spain was hundreds of years ahead of anywhere else in Europe as far as like Jewish rights were. The rest of Europe did not catch up to that for a very fucking long time.
Until like 1949.
There were some people were nice. Napoleon was nice to us.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't speak for, was he nice to everyone else? Maybe not.
Yeah.
But not
to the Haitians.
Yeah, but or the Spanish for that matter.
Or the Spanish,
I really thought it was interesting that again, who knows if this is a conscious thing or just like, laziness and just glossing over a pretty broad historical period. But I was, I knew the Jews lived in Spain before and after, but I had never known that there was like this kind of a pluralism.
Right.
No, the entire it's been very consciously elided and very much by a Zionist narrative, because it completely goes against the notion of it's us against the Muslim world. I mean, full disclosure, I'm dating a Mizrahi woman and a Mizrahi activist who's taught me a lot about this stuff. Mizrahi activist who is in solidarity with Palestine, right? Which is a very uncomfortable place to be, as you can imagine. Yeah. And one of the things I learned this year, and it's crazy that I didn't know this, there are holidays in the Jewish Muslim world like that were celebrated by Jews and Muslims together, built around both the Muslim and Jewish religious calendars. Like there's a holiday at the end of Passover where the Muslims will sell the Jews their chametz back to them, the leaven, because as their neighbors, as their friends, they would buy it off of them and take it off their hands so the Jews can clean out their houses of the bread and all that kind of stuff. And then they come back and they celebrate the end of Passover together. Similarly,
like a pawn shop.
Some ways, right? I'll hold on to this for you for a little while. Jews would cook, not Palestinians, sorry, Arabs, Muslims, I should say. And I'm getting out of my depth here, but you're hearing sort of how new it is to me, and it's exciting to know it, but it's incredible that we didn't know it. At the end of Ramadan, at the end of the fast, right? Jews would cook meals for break the fast for their Muslim neighbors. They were deeply ensconced in many of these societies, and it's Israel that had to create a narrative that said, you guys are natural born enemies. And the tragedy of the thing is that the people who then became Israeli quote unquote Mizrahim have, as a way of maybe distancing themselves from the trauma that their families endured as a result of being brought to that place, Israel, have taken that on and now are the shock troops for the racist enterprise.
And it is as they exist now in that world, obviously a great deal of history is just glossed over or deliberately omitted and ignored. But as they are characterized now, it's very similar to the phenomenon you see where the hardest right, voting groups in just generally like Western Europe or America are usually like white people who live in urban centers. That is to say, like white people who feel like they are surrounded demographically and just physically by like black people or Hispanics, or in like the European context, like Polish immigrants or Muslims or Somalians or whatever, right? It like that is one of the most like reliable hard right voting groups, and you have to erase so much history to like encourage that type of thing in these populations that lived alongside Arabs and had these very extensively codified coexistences.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
It another case too of like westernizing the whole fucking thing. You took these, Yemeni and Iraqi and everything Jews, and you made him behave like a Trump voter in one of the weird Irish South Side neighborhoods in Chicago, or a guy in Staten Island.
That's right.
So that's that story. Well,
all-purpose segue.
You could do that segue for literally anything.
Well, so that happened.
Yeah. Wow. So that happened. Thank you. That's a pod. Thank you so much, Felix Biederman, for coming on and talking about some Hasbara with us.
My absolute pleasure.
Absolutely. Where can people find you?
You can find Chapo Trap House pretty much anywhere where podcasts are, be it Spotify, Stitcher, Libsyn. Or Stitcher doesn't exist anymore, I think.
Yeah, Stitcher's dead, dude. R.I.P.
Don't go there.
Don't go Stitcher.
YouTube, wherever. Yeah, no, you can find us on Patreon. We are now selling individual packages of like several of our limited series, like the much vaunted Hell on Earth. We have more limited series coming out. I'm about to start editing and recording the series on conservative media that I'm doing. And there's some very fun ones in the future. Once I'm done with this one, I'm going to do a movie mindset type thing, but about FromSoft games that I think people will really
I was
like.
hoping it was going to be about Prestige TV.
I've done so much Prestige TV.
That's true,
stuff.
you have. You've done your time.
I have probably done, now that I think of it, like 50 episodes, so like nearly 100 hours about Prestige TV alone.
Not to mention the 2 times you talked about Sopranos with me and Vince Mancini. So you've put in your time talking about Prestige TV. It's time for FromSoft.
You are relieved, sir.
I will go back to it. There's always TV to talk about. But I've never done a gaming limited series. And I think people have talked these FromSoft games to death. But I think with the guests that I'll have on, I think that we have some novel angles for them that people will enjoy.
Well, you can find that all on patreon.com/Chapo Trap House. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, so check that out. There'll also be a link in the bio. Thank you once again, Felix Biederman, for coming.
My pleasure.
Patreon.com/BadHasbara if you want to support this show. BadHasbara@gmail.com for all of your questions, comments, concerns. All right, everybody. Daniel Mate, want to take us on out?
I wish I had one.
All right.
Do you have one, Matt? Okay, let me set you up. You ready?
Okay.
All right, thanks everybody for watching, and until next time, from the river to the sea.
I like it when Felix talks about Prestige TV.
That's what they always say.
Krav Maga us, all karate us, taking Molly us, Michael Jackson us, Yamaha keyboards us, Jar Jar Binks on us, and